So we will be reading the chapter. According to the examination point of view, I will be telling you that how the questions can be framed from each and every part and what kind of questions can be framed. Okay, so that also you need to read it carefully and be sincere now. What all time is left, we have to dedicate it fully so that our revision is completed successfully and the fruit will be there with you at the last. Okay, so let's start. Sir is not fine. So I think I have the old book. So just tell me, it is in your new book. The first topic is ecosystem in the environment, I think. Okay. Yes, Kuldeep sir, good morning. I think
Good
you're
morning, ma'am.
joining issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I am sharing Google Form with you, sir. You can share it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so see chapter 15, our environment. Just look at the book. So we have heard the word environment often being used on the television, in newspapers, and by people around us. Our elders tell us that the environment is not what it used to be earlier. Others say that we should work in a healthy environment. So it is completely regarding the environment and what all things that affect the environment, what are the components of the environment, and how the things interact with each other. Okay, so and global summits. Summits are meetings. Global summits involving the developed and developing countries are regularly held to discuss environmental issues. So you should know that what environmental issues here they are talking about. Okay, environmental issues are like accumulation of a waste and depletion of the ozone layer. So these are the major environmental issues that the world is facing with. So in this chapter, we shall be studying how various factors in the environment interact with each other. कि जो components है ecosystem के जैसे biotic, abiotic, how they interact with each other and how we impact the environment. That what we are doing with the environment. Are we you can say, is it what we are doing to the environment, is it harmful or is it beneficial for the environment? So in class 9th, we saw how different materials are cycled in the environment in separate biogeochemical cycles. What are biogeochemical cycles? You have already studied in 9th class. So the cycles in which the nutrients are used up by the plants and organisms, and after dying the same nutrients get back to the soil, so that cycle gets complete. Either you talk about oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, water cycle. So all the cycles that you have read in your 9th class, that are all biogeochemical cycles. So what are these cycles? In these cycles, essential nutrients, I underline this line. Okay, what are biogeochemical cycles? In these cycles, essential nutrients like nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, and water are changed from one form to another. We shall now see how human activities affect these cycles. Fine. So then starting with the ecosystem, it is very important topic and very easy also. Okay, so many questions you can get from this topic ecosystem. First is the very simple, the foremost question becomes that what is ecosystem? Define ecosystem. It looks simple, but sometimes students fail to attempt this also. So here it is given all organisms such as plants, animals, microorganisms, and human beings, as well as the physical surroundings interact with each other. Okay, what all things are present in the environment, whether you talk about living or non-living, they all interact with each other and they are dependent with each other, and that's why they are able to maintain a balance in the nature. All the interacting organisms, now this is the definition of ecosystem, underline this one. All the interacting organisms इन एन एरिया, कोई भी एरिया में जो भी ऑर्गेनिजम्स वहां पे एक दूसरे से इंटरेक्ट कर रहे हैं with the non-living constituents of the environment. Okay, so they are talking about living organisms that are biotic components, and non-living constituents of the environment are the abiotic components form an ecosystem. So what is an ecosystem? Where the biotic and abiotic components interact with each other and they maintain a balance in the nature. So that forms an ecosystem. Thus, so one question is there, what is ecosystem? Define ecosystem. Then next question becomes, what are the components of the ecosystem? Okay, ecosystem के क्या components है? So here is the answer, next lines. Thus, an ecosystem consists of biotic components comprising living organisms. Okay, so what are biotic components? Biotic components are all the living organisms of the environment. And abiotic components comprising the physical factors like temperature, rainfall, wind, soil, and minerals. Clear? So question can be, what are the different components of the ecosystem? Answer is biotic components and abiotic components. Now they can ask for examples also. Give two examples of biotic components or give two examples of abiotic components. ठीक है, biotic में आता है mainly where the three components of biotic components are plants, animals, and microorganisms. Okay, these three are important biotic components of the environment, and abiotic are temperature, rainfall, wind, soil, and minerals. Yeah. Then next is, for example, if you visit a garden, you will find different plants such as grasses, trees, flower bearing plants like rose, jasmine, sunflower, and animals like frogs, insects, and birds. Okay, so now we are talking about garden. Now we are talking mainly about types of ecosystems. Okay, next is types of ecosystem. How many types of ecosystems are there? There are two types of ecosystems, natural ecosystems and artificial ecosystems. Okay, natural ecosystems which are not made by man, which are made by the nature and it is present in the environment naturally. And artificial ecosystems are which are made by man. Okay, so here we are talking about garden. So can you tell me that garden comes under what? Garden is natural ecosystem or artificial? Garden is an artificial ecosystem. Okay, because garden is made by human beings. So it can also be asked that what type of ecosystem is garden. So garden is artificial ecosystem. So what all things are present in the garden? जितने भी biotic components है, abiotic components हैं, they are interacting with each other. All these living organisms interact with each other and their growth, reproduction, and their activities are affected by the abiotic components of ecosystem. So you can say that a garden is an ecosystem. Now यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन बनता है, how garden is an ecosystem? ठीक है, कि garden कैसे एक ecosystem है? So then you will say that garden comprises of biotic components and abiotic components. Biotic कौन से हो गए? Plants हो गए, small insects हो गए, okay, and microorganisms हो गए, and birds, you can say, small frogs. So all these things are biotic and they are interacting with the abiotic components. Abiotic में कौन से हो गए? जो वहाँ पे environment है, temperature, soil, rainfall, water. So they are interacting with each other. So that's why you can call a garden as an ecosystem. But garden is an artificial ecosystem. Okay. So then what are the types of natural ecosystems? Next lines are, other types of ecosystems are forests, ponds, and lakes. A forest, ponds, and lakes कौन सा type है? This is natural ecosystem, right? So example question can come that give two examples of natural ecosystem. Then you will say forest, ponds, and lakes. And question can be there, give two examples of natural ecosystems. So natural ecosystem में आ गया, these are natural ecosystem, while gardens and crop fields are human made ecosystems, or you can say artificial ecosystems. ठीक है, artificial में कौन सा आ गया? Garden, crop fields, and one more is there, that is aquarium. Aquarium is a fish tank which some people keep at their homes also, and they keep small fishes in that. अब एक्वेरियम पे एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन बनता है, ठीक है, दैट यू नो दैट नेचुरल इकोसिस्टम्स जो होते हैं दे नीड नॉट टू बी क्लीन्ड बाय मैन, ठीक है, उसको हम क्लीन नहीं करते हैं, लाइक फॉरेस्ट पॉन्ड्स एंड लेक्स दे आर नॉट क्लीन बाय अस, बट व्हाट आर दीज, ये जो आर्टिफिशियल इकोसिस्टम होते हैं लाइक गार्डन्स, क्रॉप फील्ड्स एंड एक्वेरियम स्पेशली, सो व्हाई एक्वेरियम नीड टू बी क्लीन्ड रेगुलरली, क्यों उसको साफ करना पड़ता है एक्वेरियम को बार बार? So this question has come in the boards also previously. So why aquarium needs to be cleaned? So that you will get this answer here in this one. So read this activity, activity 15.3. This will give you the answer. So you might have seen an aquarium. सबने देखा होगा. Let us try to design one. So what are the materials that are required to make an ecosystem? Aquarium बनाने के लिए क्या क्या चाहिए होता है? So what are the things that we need to keep in mind when we create an aquarium? The fish would need a free space for swimming. सबसे पहले उसको aquarium को you will give a space. It could be a large jar. Water is needed, oxygen is needed, and food is needed. We can provide oxygen through an oxygen pump that is called aerator. अब फिशेस को ऑक्सीजन भी चाहिए अंदर, आपको ऑक्सीजन पंप भी लगाना होगा, that is called aerator. And fish food is also required, which is available in the market. Now, if we add a few aquatic plants and animals, it can become a self-sustaining system. अगर हम उसमें कुछ plants और animals डाल दें, small insects या what all fishes are there, so then it will become a self-sustaining system. Means वो अपने आप में ही फिर वो it will work. Now, can you think how this happens? So an aquarium is an example of a human-made ecosystem. Okay, this is important here, that what kind of ecosystem is aquarium? Aquarium is an artificial human-made ecosystem. And then these lines are important. Can we leave the aquarium as such after we set it up? कि उसको एक बार aquarium को एक बार आपने set up कर दिया, so then can you leave it as it is without cleaning it? So why does it have to be cleaned once in a while? And do we have to clean ponds or lakes in the same manner? Why or why not? So in your, especially in your NCRT book, when these activities are there and these kind of questions are there, so from there you get the chances of getting the questions. Okay. So what is the answer of this? Now you know that in the aquarium, decomposers are not there. Now what are decomposers? Decomposers are the microorganisms जो होते हैं bacteria and fungi. ठीक है, decomposers are the microorganisms that are known as bacteria and fungi, and they mostly live on land. ठीक है, वो लैंड पे ज्यादा रहते हैं and they are not found in water, fresh water or sea water. So mostly they live on land. And what are decomposers? These are the microorganisms like bacteria and fungi which break down the dead remains and waste products of the organisms. Aquarium mein what is there? Now fishes are there, and now when you will give food to the fishes, sometimes there is uneaten food and the waste of the fishes also. So that also gets, you can say, it starts accumulating in the aquarium, and that waste on which the decomposers have to act. उन पे कौन act करता है? Decomposers act करते हैं in the natural environment. Okay, so but now in the aquarium, which is an artificial ecosystem, क्योंकि वो एक artificial ecosystem है, so their decomposers are not present. So when decomposers are not present, so what will happen? The uneaten food, the waste of the fishes, that will start accumulating in the aquarium, and to the level it will become toxic. वो इतना ज़्यादा concentration में increase हो जाएगा, it will keep on increasing in concentration that it will become toxic. वो level toxic हो जाएगा, and then it will start harming the fishes. Okay, so if the water will become toxic, obviously, because the fishes are taking the dissolved oxygen which is present in the water. So then if that waste is not cleaned from the aquarium and decomposers are not present to clean that naturally, so then it will become toxic and it will harm the other fishes also. This is very important question which has been asked several times in the board examinations, that why there is a need to clean the aquarium regularly? Because of the absence of the decomposers. Clear? Mainly your answer is that there are no decomposers to uh, break down the dead remains and the waste products of the organisms. So these microorganisms, इनको हम decomposers बोलते हैं. Or directly question can be there, explain the role of decomposers. And so many times this question have come, several times. Explain the role of decomposers. So what is the role of decomposers? It is written in the book also, underline these lines. Uh, in the last lines, the microorganisms. Before that, there's a small thing which we need to discuss. Okay, so I'm reading this one. We have seen in earlier classes that organisms, now you got the answer that why do aquariums need to be cleaned. Okay, we have seen in earlier classes that organisms can be grouped as producers, consumers and decomposers. Okay, so हम organisms को किन में group कर सकते हैं? We can group the organism. Okay, so component of ecosystem I told you, biotic and abiotic. Now biotic components can be further divided into three categories. Biotic components में कौन आते हैं? Producers, consumers and decomposers. ठीक है? Further, consumers can be of four types, that is herbivore, carnivore, omnivore and parasites. It is written in your book. I am not saying from my own. Now listen to it. So we have seen in earlier classes that organisms can be grouped as, organisms को हम group करते हैं producers, consumers and decomposers. Okay, according to the manner in which they obtain their sustenance from the environment. कि जैसे जैसे वो environment से अपना खाना लेते हैं, so according to that we have categorized organisms, biotic components as producers, consumers and decomposers. Now let us recall that what we have learned through the self-sustaining ecosystem created by us above. Okay, जो हमने ecosystem aquarium बनाया है, which organisms can make organic compounds like sugar and starch from inorganic substances using the radiant energy of the sun in the presence of the chlorophyll. So we are talking about photosynthesis here, and you know that which organisms can do the photosynthesis? Only green plants and some blue-green algae. Okay, so you should know that green plants and some certain blue-green algae, they are only capable of performing photosynthesis. Now these green plants, इनको हम transducers भी बोलते हैं. You can write down this term here. They are also known as transducers. Transducers. Okay, this word can be there in the exam, so sometimes students confuse that what are transducers. Transducers. So green plants are transducers because they can convert the light energy into chemical energy. Okay, otherwise transducer is a device, or you can say in biology term, it is they are the organisms which can convert the light energy of the sun into the chemical energy, that is the sugar and starch. Okay, they are known as transducers also. So they are making what? They are making organic compounds. What are organic compounds? That are made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Complex compounds को हम organic compounds बोलते हैं, like sugar and starch. From inorganic substances जैसे small molecules होते हैं, carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so what plants, green plants are doing? They are making the organic compounds, complex organic compounds like sugar and starch from inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water using the radiant energy of the sun in the presence of the chlorophyll. ठीक है, कौन से होते हैं? All green plants and certain blue-green algae which can produce food by photosynthesis come under this category and are called the producers. ठीक है, producers, you can say producers are of primary importance in the environment. Question can be asked that which organisms, which group of organisms can be considered as primary importance, important organisms in the environment. So उसमें आप लिखोगे producers. Why? Because you know that in any food chain or any trophic level, only the first level is of the producers. ठीक है, सबसे पहले हम producers को रखते हैं कोई भी food chain में. Why? Because only producers have the capacity to convert the sun's energy into chemical energy. ठीक है, उन्हीं के पास होता है, अदरवाइज देन that producers are eaten up by the consumers, then consumers are acted upon by the decomposers once they die. So the foremost, you can say, the group of organisms which are of primary importance in the environment are the producers. अगर producers ही नहीं होंगे तो food chain start ही नहीं होगी, ठीक है. So producers, then comes your consumers. So these organisms depend on the producers. Producers पे कौन depend करता है? Consumers, either directly or indirectly for their sustenance. ठीक है. Now consumers जो depend करते हैं producer पे, they are also of different types. ठीक है. Consumers के types क्या हैं? These organisms which consume the food produced either directly from the producers, ठीक है, जो ग्रीन प्लांट्स पे डायरेक्टली या तो फीड करते हैं, और इनडायरेक्टली बाय फीडिंग ऑन अदर कंज्यूमर्स आर द कंज्यूमर्स. कंज्यूमर्स में भी डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज होती हैं, लाइक प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर, सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर, टर्शनरी, क्वाटरनरी. प्राइमरी में आ जाएंगे आपके हर्बीवोर्स, ओके, फर्स्ट लेवल हर्बीवोर्स. देन सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर्स में आ जाएंगे कार्निवोर्स, ठीक है. टर्चरी में ओमनीवोर्स, क्वाटरनरी में आ जाएंगे आपके पैरासाइट्स, ठीक है. सो दीज आर आल्सो गिवन हियर. सी द नेक्स्ट लाइन, that consumers can be classed variously as. Question can be asked, name the different types, name the different levels of the consumers. So consumers के कौन कौन से types हैं? Underline this line. Consumers can be classed variously as herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and parasites. ठीक है. So four types of consumers we are talking about. Consumers, so four types of consumers are herbivores, carnivore, omnivore, and parasites. What are herbivore? You know, plant eaters are herbivores. Example हो गया आपका goat, sheep. Okay. Carnivore हो गया आपके flesh eaters. Example tiger, lion. Omnivore, which eats both plants and animals like we humans are, pigs, crow. Then parasites क्या होते हैं? Parasites which lives on or in an organism. वो किसी organism के ऊपर रहते हैं उस surface पे, या फिर inside the organism, and that organism on which it lives, जिसके अंदर या ऊपर वो रहते हैं, that is called host organism. ठीक है, वो host organism होता है. And these parasites, they are not doing anything. वो अपना खाना कुछ नहीं बनाते हैं. They are completely dependent on the host's body. वो host के जो body होती है, उसके जो nutrients होते हैं, they are completely dependent on that. Example दे सकते हो parasites के? Parasite can be like the bacteria which lives in the human intestine, E. coli, Escherichia coli. E. coli is the bacteria which lives in the human intestine and it feeds on the food that we eat. Okay, or you can say one amar bale is there, kaskata also we call that. So wo bale hoti hai, that is just wrapping the tree and it is just taking the nutrient from the tree only. Okay, and in turn it is not giving any benefit to the tree or the host. Okay, and then और example आप lice ले सकते हो. lice जो सिर में जुएं पड़ जाती हैं, that is called lice, lice. So that is also what? That is also just feeding on the human blood, that is just sucking the blood and the other dust or waste. So that are called parasites. ठीक है, so understood. Different types of consumers, four types के होते हैं: herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and parasites. So it is written. The next line is, can you give examples for each of these categories of consumers? I already gave you examples. पता लगे herbivores का goat, sheep, carnivore का दे सकते हो tiger, lion, omnivore humans, pigs, crow. Parasite का I told you, E. coli हो गया, then lice हो गया, cascata. Okay, these are the examples for each category of consumers. Now this paragraph, next one, is important, which tells us the role of decomposers. Okay, explain the role of decomposers. Now imagine the situation where you do not clean the aquarium and some fish and plants have died. ठीक है, आप aquarium you're not cleaning and some fish and plants have died. So have you ever thought what happens when an organism dies? So what happened? So you know what is organism is made up of? Organism is made up of complex substances. So which it has made by using the inorganic substances. So complex substances जैसे human body में glucose हो गया, okay, that is the energy form, and in plants it is starch. So that complex substances, when the plant or any animal die, So then that complex substances again have to be converted to simpler substances. वो simpler substances में जब convert होगा, then only it will be mixed into the soil. And when it will be mixed into the soil, then only again it will be used by the plants. So then only cycle will be complete. And then to complete that cycle, decomposers are required. Okay, so the role of decomposers in the environment is very important. अगर decomposers नहीं होंगे तो जो plants और animals जो which are dying, so that complex substances which are present in the dead animals and plants will not be able to be converted into simpler substances, and then further it will not be able to mix with the soil. So that cycle will not be complete without decomposers. So that's why decomposers play a very important role in the environment. Underline these lines here. So have you ever thought what happens when an organism dies? I told you the microorganisms comprising bacteria and fungi. ठीक है, microorganisms कौन है, क्या है? So these are bacteria and fungi. Mostly they live on land. I told you. So they break down the dead remains and waste products of organisms. So ये decomposers जो होते हैं, they are doing that job. So what are they doing? They are breaking down the dead animals and plants. जो dead animals और plants का जो waste है, they are breaking down that dead matter into simpler. It is written, underline these lines. These microorganisms are the decomposers as they break down the complex organic substances into simple inorganic substances. ओके, ऑर्गेनिक सब्सटेंसेस जो बड़े फॉर्म, जो बड़े मॉलिक्यूल्स होते हैं बॉडी में, ग्लूकोज हो गया ह्यूमन बॉडी में, प्लांट्स में स्टार्च हो गया, इनटू सिंपलर इनऑर्गेनिक सब्सटेंसेस, ठीक है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड वाटर में, दे गो इनटू द सॉइल एंड आर यूज्ड अप वंस मोर बाय द प्लांट्स, ठीक है। सो वो डिकम्पोजर्स का रोल है कि उसको दोबारा सिंपलर सब्सटेंसेस में कन्वर्ट करते हैं। सो व्हाट विल हैपन टू द गार्बेज and dead animals and plants in their absence? So this can also be the question, that what will happen to the garbage and dead animals and plants in their absence? So what will happen if the decomposers are not present in the environment? So if the decomposers are not present in the environment, then obviously dead plants and animals will not be decayed into the soil properly, and that waste accumulation will be there on the land only, which will become toxic again. So that will create foul smell into the environment, and moreover, if any organism is feeding on that, that is which has already become toxic, so it will be harmful to that animal also. So this is, you can say, then the cycle will not be completed, and other organisms, they will also be affected if the decomposers are not present in the environment. So will the natural replenishment of the soil take place? Natural replenishment of the soil means the going the nutrients going back into the soil. So if the decomposers are not there, the nutrients will not go back into the soil, because it will only be mixed with the soil when they will be broken down into simpler inorganic substances. So no natural replenishment of the soil will take place if the decomposers are not present in the environment. Clear now? So the role of decomposers is very important. You should know it. Then next one activity is there. Read it. Activity 15.4. While creating an aquarium, this is related to the aquarium only. While creating an aquarium, did you take care not to put an aquatic animal which would eat others? Now this is the relation to the next topic, that is food chain. Okay, so when we make aquarium, we always take care. You might have seen also that sometimes in the aquarium, some fishes, they start eating the small fishes. ठीक है, वो क्यों होता है? So if that is happening, then you have to take out that big fish which is eating the small fish. That means it is disturbing the food chain of the aquarium. Okay, so that is to be taken care. What would have happened otherwise? कि अगर ऐसा होगा तो क्या होगा? Obviously the big fishes who are eating the small fishes will be eaten up and the food chain will be disturbed. Yeah, this is the next topic, food chain. And here also one important question is there, that if any food chain is there and if any one organism is taken out, is removed from that food chain, that what would be the effect of on other organisms? So obviously the organisms who were feeding on that organism which is deleted, उनका number कम हो जाएगा, they will be affected. And that organism जिसको delete किया है, that who was feeding on the small animal, that small animals will increase in number, because the animal which is eating those animals, that is deleted. So both the steps will be affected, down below step also and the other next level also. So both the levels of the food chain will be affected if that organism is deleted from the food chain. This kind of questions can be there. Okay, now make groups and discuss how each of the above groups of organisms are dependent on each other. We have already studied that how they eat each other and they are interrelated. So if anyone is removed, then the other will be affected. Now this kind of question can be there. They can ask you to make a food chain on your own. Okay, a question can be there for 2 marks, that make a food chain on your own. And then the next question can be there, that if the primary, you can say, producers are removed from that food chain, what would be the effect on the consumers then? Okay, so here also this is there, write the aquatic organisms in order of who eats whom, कौन किसको खा रहा है, ठीक है, in the aquarium we are talking about. So can you make it? Write the